Well, I don't have to do that because I'm the technical man.
Anthropological Review is brought to you by
Black's Beer, a good tasting Wisconsin favorite.
Also brought to you by
Old-fashioned cheese, everyone's favorite.
The eighth I am, and in the eighth I am. I got married to the widow next door. She's been married 7 times before. And everyone was an Henry. She wouldn't have a willy or a strap. I'm the eighth old man, I'm Henry. Henry the eighth I am. Second verse, same as the first.
Good evening and welcome to Anthropological Review. For tonight's episode, A Coming of Age in Sheboygan, I ventured into the thick of America's beer basket to investigate life in a unique and primitive culture, Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Our guest, Mary Ernst, is a native of this flat, weather-beaten civilization. Welcome, Mary.
No, thank you, Sam. I have 2 things to say about your introduction. We are not primitive. In fact, Sheboygan has long been known as the center of the universe. And the other thing is we are not flat. I mean, there's some rolling hills.
Yes, quite. For my first question, growing up as a Sheboyganese, what are some of your most distinct childhood memories?
Oh, well, let's see. I think it was a nice place to grow up. Because, it's not too big place.
Excuse me, but do you know where a bubbler is?
Sorry, don't. Anyway, it's a nice place to grow up because, it wasn't too big a town, so you could know people there, small town atmosphere, although there were about 50,000 people. And, the memories I have of growing up. Well, I could say things like going down by Craney's and seeing Lake Michigan. One memory about Lake Michigan is that every year on New Year's Day, the Polar Bears, which is a group of mostly men, but some women who like to go jumping into Lake Michigan every New Year's Day, get together and fling their bodies into the freezing cold water, and maybe it's 20 below outside. It's kind of memorable. A lot of snow. I like the snow.
What is the ethnic makeup in Sheboygan, Wisconsin?
Oh, well, almost everybody has German background, and our family is German Catholic. There's different religious denominations, German Protestants, and there's hardly any black people, and maybe 2 or 3 families. Some Mexican families, and then in the 1970s there were a lot of Hmong families who came and joined the community.
How do these different groups relate to each other?
Well, I think not very well. And this is one of the disadvantages of growing up in a place like Sheboygan, is that people, there's not enough differences in ethnicities, and so the people really don't learn to get along that well. They don't have enough experience in meshing with other cultures, and it's very sad because like they're still having problems. The Hmong people are having problems fitting in with the people with families who've been there a long time, and it's difficult for new people to come in.
Now then, as a Sheboyganese woman grows up, what rites of passage does she go through?
Rites of passage. Well, I think typical rites of passage. One thing that comes to mind that might be different than other places is that in the high schools, most high schools have a prom night. And in Sheboygan, there's not really a prom night. It's more by invitation. So what happens is that every year there's a group of girls, high school girls, who have a certain number of invitations to give out, and they give those out only to their friends, their girlfriends, who then invite their boyfriends, which leaves a lot of people out. A lot of people just don't get invited, never get to go to a senior prom or anything like that. The other thing that maybe comes to mind is being Catholic. There are certain rites of passage that you go through, which would be all of the sacraments, like First Communion and penance and confirmation and all those types of things. I don't know how much you know about that, but those are the things. And I also want to clear up another thing. I had never really been on a farm until I moved to California. But in any case, there are a lot of farms and a lot of small owned farms by small family-owned farms.
Well, if Sheboyganites don't farm, how do they earn their subsistence?
Well, most Sheboyganites work in the next village over. It's called the village of Kohler, owned by Herb Kohler. Almost everybody works there at the Kohler Company, and it's a toilet factory where they make toilets in bathtubs and faucets and things like that. And almost everybody in Sheboygan works at Kohler Company. The other thing is that Sheboygan is known in the old days for four things that's called 4 C's. Chairs, cheese, children, and churches. The 4 C's.
Of course.
There used to be a big chair factory.
Now then, what kind of pressures does a Sheboyganese woman go through as she's growing up?
Oh boy. Pressures.
What molds her?
I don't think there were that many pressures molding me that were not typical of everyone else. In the rest of the country, I don't know, ask a more specific question.
Well, in primitive cultures such as Sheboygan...
Oh wait, I thought of one thing. Here's the one pressure that's probably, I think, a bigger pressure than it would be around here. And that's that in Sheboygan there's a lot of drinking. And there's a bar on every corner just about. I mean, there's a bar within 4 blocks of any home, I would estimate. And a lot of them are family-owned bars, and they bring their kids or whatever. But people do drink way too much, and so I would say that drinking is definitely a pressure for someone growing up in Sheboygan. He says, no, it's an hour away.
Oh, just an hour away from Sheboygan.
With review. Rescue Life Plants Beer, established in Milwaukee.
Blots, 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 blots,